Welcome to the Not Superheroes Gets Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be present for our kids, and come back generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I am Sean Laurie. And before we jump into today's episode, y'all, I actually have another proud dad moment. I actually want to give out a shout out to Matt Perry and his beautiful wife. They're actually expecting their second child. And so I know he's excited. I'm happy for the Perry family for sure. But I wanted to definitely share that. And for those that don't know, this is the time where I like to give a shout out to the fathers, no matter what it is, no matter what we're celebrating. It could be as simple as your child got an A on their test, or you got a raise at a job, or whatever it is, man. But shout out to you again, Matt Perry, and your beautiful family as they grow. I think it's spring of 2025. I think that's what he told me. So shout out to you. But with that being said, I am excited to have one of my boys. Actually, he used to play football against my brother too, my younger brother. But how you doing, Mo? How you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. If I would have known that I was gonna be mentioned in the same sentence with Matt, I wouldn't have took this call. No, I'm just playing. Matt is my guy. Shout out to Matt Perry, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations to that dude. But
yeah,
yeah,
man.
man, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
That's dope. Yeah, yeah. Mo. Matt was he was a guest on here too, man. So
Okay, that's
definitely. He
dope.
even
That's my
said
guy.
I'm gonna have to get him back on there too. He said, man, juggling too. He was like, man, I'm gonna have to get back on here. So shout out to you, Matt. Shout out to you, man. But what I like to do, man, I like to do icebreakers, right? And so for you, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. You have a twin brother, correct?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So, what is the craziest thing, either A, that you and your twin brother did, or because I always hear those stories, right? Like you guys are
Yeah.
thinking the same thing or saying the same thing or whatever. What is a crazy thing? Because right, we always hear it, and I don't have a twin, so I don't know how that is. So, do you either have a story or a moment that you and your brother shared?
Yeah, I didn't. We didn't do any of the feeling or thinking, or that wasn't our experience. I don't know.
Okay.
Other twins might have that. Other twins might have that. But for us, man, I'll tell you one of the things. I think it was first grade. We switched classes. We did the switch
Mhm.
classes thing, and I forget how it went down, but I think I wrote down my name when we switched, and that's how the teacher caught us. And then, and then, when you're that young, you're not thinking through all of the logistics of it, but you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. And I was so scared, and I think I was the one that wrote down my name, and then the teacher called us. But
Dang.
you know,
Your brother
after
probably
that,
like,
we
man,
never
you
did.
messed it up.
Yeah, exactly. We always thought about it, but we was like, we're not doing
That's
that
funny.
again.
I love it. I love it, man. So,
Yeah, man.
um, you have a wonderful son, with your lovely wife, of course. And I wanted to ask you, man, as we're actually, y'all, real quick too, we're gonna dive into just certain traits and certain behaviors and things that we notice, right, when we have our kids, and maybe that we don't realize before. But I wanted to ask you, Mo, like, what was the first moment as a father that made you realize, you maybe had certain traits that you didn't recognize before, right? That you might be never even
hmm
noticed until you had your son.
Oh man, traits that I didn't know that I had. I mean, well, there, just like most, I mean, like a lot of people I've heard say and talk about it, there's this, there's this love, man, that comes out that you did not know was there.
Yeah.
There's this extra mile in you that when you're just at your end and you go a little bit further, um, just these different moments that have come up. But that love piece also was just big, man. I tell you, I got more emotional when it happened
Mhm.
after my son, and
Yeah.
you don't watch movies the same. You don't see life the same. There's this justice part of you that you start thinking through
Mhm.
of like, if that happened to me and my son, or if we were in that scenario, I remember watching a TV show just one time and just this just normal scene, and the dad had to tell him, there's these weird, I forget what the show was called, but he had to leave him and say, I'm gonna go back, I'll be back for you, and I gotta go
Yeah.
do this, but you're stuck. He was stuck under some log or something, and I was like, I would have never left. That's crazy. I cannot leave. That's no.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You start to do these things, but traits, man, love,
That's dope.
just perseverance, that extra mile,
Mm.
uh, when you're dead dog tired, man, and you got a human that is dependent on you. It's like there's no tapping out right now, and so those moments you start to see come alive a little bit. Yeah,
That's dope. I like that,
yeah,
bro.
man.
How has becoming a father then like even changed the way that you see yourself as just as a person, as an individual? Because like you said, like the way you watch things is different, but how do you view yourself? Like, like for me, I can speak for myself, bro. It was
Yeah.
like I'm very conscious of how, I mean, not that I carry myself a negative way or anything like that, but now I'm even that much more conscious of how I carry myself, right? Like how I'm speaking to little
Mm,
people, how they see how I'm interacting with their mom, right? Just all these different things. I'm making sure that they pick up on the positive things, and it's like I know they're constantly watching me, so I
yeah,
have to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah.
yeah. One person said something. I forget exactly who it was, but I heard somebody say this some years ago, this before I had my kid, but he said um, there were things in his language and his things that he was doing that weren't bad, but there were things when he, after having a child, um, that stood out to him that he wanted to live an integrated life.
Mm,
And what that meant for him was, what he said was, I don't want my child to see that I'm this way with people over here and talk like this and portray myself this way. And then at home, I'm another way, or with another group of friends, I'm different.
mm,
And so he just was saying he caught himself being divided
mm,
in different spaces. And that's something that I've seen just surface of like, I want that integration. I want that the dad talks, lives, uh, just everything, portrays himself, walks all the things the
yeah.
same way at the barbershop, the same way at church, the same way at home, the same way in the grocery store, the same way with the homies, all of those spaces. And so that's something that I think I'm a little bit more mindful of, even though my son's 18 months old. I'm
Yeah.
just like, you know what? It starts now. So those are things that I'm thinking about. And one of the things that helps me with that a little bit is I love having him on my hip. I love taking him just with me. And he's so young, but just having him with me is a reminder.
Mm,
So there's this stage of life I think right now that serves as a reminder, that serves as a reflection point, before they can start really talking to you. They can start um, you know giving you feedback, like all these things before they
yeah.
can start. Like, so there's some stuff that I'm like, man, there's a spark, but I want this reminder. I want this to start
Mm,
now. So
I like
yeah,
that.
that kind of crosses my mind.
So I wanted to ask you because you said something very interesting, like you said the
Yeah,
barbershop, homies, things like that. So how do you navigate through that? Because let's be honest, right? You with the homie in the neighborhood, wherever that neighborhood's at,
right.
right? There's
Hmm.
it's gonna be a culture type of it's a shift, right? So you can't be
For
that
sure.
same way as you can at a job or at church or. But like you said, you want to be able to be that same way no matter what. So how do you balance that? Is it because let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. If you're in a certain neighborhood,
Yeah.
you can't be the same way there as you could, you know, I don't know, if you work in the office. That's just the
Hmm.
reality. You're not going to be able to talk a
Yeah.
certain way or do a certain thing. So how do you do that? Is it one of those things where you just tell the homies, "Hey, this is me. Like this is how I am. Y'all got to accept it." Or how do you navigate through that? Because I think that's you we seen the memes, right? I'm sure you've seen those Instagram comedian things where it's like, hey, I'm at work. Hey, sir, how you doing? And then someone, hey, what's up, homie? Like So how do you, right? Like you've
Yeah,
seen those little reels, those
yeah, I
funny
have.
little,
Yeah, I have.
so, so how
Yeah,
do you go about that?
yeah, man. I don't know, Sean. I'm gonna push back a little bit, man. I think there's some things that we have a tendency towards. We have a tendency towards those things. We know when it comes to individually by ourselves, growing
Mhm.
up, living life, different things like that, that code switching, there's a way about it. There's a way of self-preservation. There's a way of getting a job. There's a way of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has its place or not, but I just know at this stage of life, man, for me, I think that we actually don't have to. And I
Mm.
think that there's something in us um, that I think we'd be better off being solely who we are in all spaces.
Mm.
And I think that people, wherever those spaces may have known you, whatever it may look like, whether it's work or whether it's a grocery store, whatever it might be, they should see some difference. They should see some change.
Mm.
They're like, oh, you're not doing you're not talking the way you're not. And it's like, well,
Mm.
you know what? Is that who am I really? Right? Like, I think I want to get to that part. Like, being authentic, because let's be honest, when you talk about being at work, sounding this way, and then going to homie sounding this way,
Yeah.
the question has to come up is, who are you really? Like, which one are you?
Mm.
And I think for me, instead of having to, for my son to have to wrestle with that question of which one is my dad, I think his dad should wrestle with that first. Who am I?
Mm.
And then choose, like, you know what? Yeah. So I think that there's actually a way of living that we can be the same way. And again, we may come from this, similar context where
Yeah.
it is the homies. It don't even got to be the homies. It could be family at Thanksgiving. There's some aunties,
Yeah.
some uncles that's
Yeah.
just that look, we go that they outside during dinner and they're, doing whatever it is that,
Yeah. Yeah.
they taking a walk, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The cousin
Yeah. Yeah.
walk,
Yeah. The walk, the
they
famous
do
walk.
the famous walk, you know what I mean? and and the thing is, I love it. That's family. That's always. And
Yeah.
so my son will never see me pull away from those environments when it comes to just being with family and things like that.
Mm.
But will I turn? Will I contort? Will I act differently? Will I, whatever that looks like? Will I feel a little bit more loose, and therefore, let's be honest, if I feel a little bit more my flesh, or feel a little bit more just whatever, that I
Yeah.
can X, Y, Z, and this, that, and talk the talk? Or is it like, who am I choosing to be?
Mm.
And who's God wired me to be? Who am I longing to be? And am I being that? So I would just push a little bit, man, of, I think we can be that in all those spaces of ourselves,
Yeah.
and leave it up to others to wrestle with that.
Mm. I like that. I was actually gonna say that too. I feel like you could be in um not all the way with it, as far as, like you said, the growth is key, right? But you could be all these different things, right? And so I look at, like,
Mm-hmm.
matching other people's energy, right?
Got
So
you.
not in a negative way either. Like, hey, I'm about to go and
Mm-hmm.
do the walk. Doesn't mean you have to do the walk too, right?
Right.
Just, hey, okay, do your thing, man. Yeah, all right, I'll see you later, right? And then, like, at work, hey, you, like you say, you got to switch up the code, but that's also how they're presenting themselves. So let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, depending on how you are too, you don't want to come off too aggressive, because a lot of times people look at it in the black culture. Sometimes we become a little aggressive, not all, but some,
Uh-huh. I
right?
hear you.
So I could see basically, I'm looking at, like, I can see it from both sides, as what you're
Yeah.
saying. Um, and so I was interested, because that's a good answer. I was just interested in that, because yeah, that is difficult as far as for some people, right? Where it's like, man, okay, over here
Yeah.
I can be over here, but over here I can't be over here, because let's be honest, I can't go to a job like, yeah, what's up, man? Hey, I'm trying to get this job. How much it pays, right? I can't talk like that, right? You're probably not going to get the job, depending on what type of job it is, right? But understand in that space that also what you said, I think is amazing too. When you said, like, who are you? What's your identity look like? Like, why do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you have to carry yourself that way? Why can't you just,
Yeah.
hey, how are you today? What's wrong with that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole
And
nother. Because
yeah.
that can go into blackness, and that can turn to a
Yeah.
whole nother. You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure. I hear you though. I hear you. I think there's there's a question of identity. There's also conversation around um, sort of a cultural agility, right? There's
Yes.
people who can just navigate in different spaces without changing themselves, but also there's a flexibility, there's an awareness, there's a um, emotional awareness, there's an
Yes.
intelligence, whether they're just being able to see things, navigate, So I think there's that, which I think is fine. I think there's another side of it that can become dark and just, you losing yourself, right?
I like that. No, that's
So.
true, bro. So with that being said, because you said like that's where the darkness or the negative things can come out. So I wanted to ask you, um, if there's any, there might not even be any, but are there some negative traits or behaviors that you have identified as you being a father that you're trying to avoid? I don't even know if avoid is the right word, but you don't necessarily want to pass that down to your son, or you want to make sure as you pass it down, you help him to know what to look for, what not to do with certain behaviors or certain traits.
hmm that's a great question. I was listening to something the other day, and I think it's what's been super helpful for me is seeing how much um, we you can look at your relationship with your child through your relationship with God, and through
Mm,
that lens when it comes to how Jesus Christ in His relationship with you, and how the gospel forms and shapes your parenting. And one of the ways for me that kind of like surfaces that I've been kind of become cognizant of is through communication.
mm,
And there's this thing that I see in my son of, again, 18 months. And when you're at a spot where you don't know how to communicate in words, you you're finding other ways in his childlike mind, right? So there's a hitting, there's a biting. It's like there's when he's frustrated and it's not going his way, it's not taking place, it's not whatever it might be. And he just started going down this thing of just kind of biting. And I'm like,
mm.
yo, what is this? And I've talked to other parents, and they,
Yeah.
other ones have, just these things. But he's trying to get something, but he's communicating in a way that is uh, not good, right?
Yeah.
And it only makes me think, and I had to just slow down and again in your relationship with your child, and then God showing you, look at you, uh, where there's some things within myself of where am I, where are those moments in my life that um, for some reason something's not going my way, and instead of maturely going about it, communicating the right way, communicating my thoughts, what I feel, expressing that the right way, there's a reverting to this childlike behavior of whether it's becoming dismissive or whether it's shutting down. I'm not biting people, but what
Yeah.
are the ways that that shows up for me? And so I can see that in relationships or at work or with my wife, right? And I'm like, man, there's things that God is showing me here.
Mm,
And there's a way that I think that God shows us. There's a revelation that takes place in parenting, because we're not we don't there's something about it that I think is unnatural. Like parenting is unnatural. What I
mm,
mean by that is like this there's natural aspects, like a mother is going to, gravitate to the child, a father is going to, you hear a cry, it's going to do something to your heart, right? There's these things, but when it comes to naturally um being wired to care for the soul of another human being, that just, for me, it doesn't come natural.
yeah.
And so those things for me where I'm like I'm more self-centered than I think I
Mm,
am. I'm more, as much as it's like, oh, this cute baby, this awesome baby, this is mine, and look at my legacy, all the different things, that natural, I'm tired and I want to have mo time, I
mm,
want to go to me instead of extending, right? It's whatever this like sort of thing. And so there's some stuff that comes up where I'm just like, man, it's something about how God wires or shows us and reveals things to us through our parenting that happens in our relationship with Him, right?
mm,
And
mm.
so there's some stuff that I'm just thinking about that happens in my own. The biggest one right now is just communication and
Yeah.
what that looks like, not only on a human to human, but what does that look like when things aren't going my way in my relationship with God? What does it
Mm,
look like when I'm not fulfilled in something,
yeah.
and how am I responding to that? Because I see so clearly in how my son is doing,
Yeah.
but how's that showing up in my own life, right? So
Mm,
it's trippy, man. How
yeah.
yeah, how your your relationship with God, man, is exposed.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Hmm.
I love what you said too, man. Because at least in my opinion, there might be people that push back, but I think naturally we're all selfish, right? We're
For
all
sure,
selfish.
1000%.
Even in our relationships, right? We
Hmm.
have certain friendships, we have certain people we're getting something from it, right? We're not just friends
Hmm.
with them just because, right? And so with parenting, that's the only time you're constantly giving. You're not getting anything back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not getting anything back. You're constantly pouring into the child how much you love them, which represents in my what you said with God, right? God is
Yeah.
constantly pouring into us. We're not giving him anything back, to be honest, right?
Man.
So what you said is so true because naturally it's like, and then right where it gets dicey with the parenting because like you said there is some of us as fathers where we struggle with that, right? So our child needs us here or needs us to do something. It's like, man, I'd rather get this extra sleep, or you know what?
Hmm.
Nah, I gotta I don't know, I gotta do these extra hours. Which
Hmm.
your mindset is yes, you're doing it for the family, right? Or are you
Hmm.
doing it because that money represents your ego? That money represents a paycheck where you feel good about yourself, right? Where
Yeah.
I'm able, so it can go a whole nother thing. So I just love the fact that you was able to be aware with that and connected with God. Now I see your
Yeah.
wheels turning, so go ahead, brother. I see. You either disagree or you're something. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting with it. I think the thing that comes up for me is um what we get out of our relationship, that we give to God that He desires
Mm,
is presence, you know.
yes.
And when we're in this spot of giving as a father, there's something about all this pouring out all these different things, but there's these glimpses and these moments where you also sit through all the chaos, through the crying, the not eating, the restless nights, these different things that there's some moments you slow down enough, you see the precious moments of presence, of
Yeah.
just being with them,
Yes.
and just that like you're here. Like we were
Mm,
thinking about you long before you got here, long before there was like these things like you sit with of like, man, we pray for you, bro. Like before we even saw you, before you right? Like there was these things. So there's this stuff where I think for one, so one thing that's highlighted in that conversation that I think is just important is when it comes to the presence and the presence of a father, the presence of a child, because what your child does for you of just you being able to watch him, being able to just see him, see her, look through that, and I say him a lot because I have a son, right?
yeah.
But being
Yeah.
able to just watch my boy, being able to just when he's not even watching me, and just being there, so I think there's something that's pretty special about that. But I would also say in that same on the other side of that, or I should say just in the same breath, exactly to what you said, man. Of so much of the relationships that we have, I think that stood out to me. We're used to um, something in return, right? We're used to being able, hey, I can articulate to my wife, hey, I'm in need, like I need this, or you can tell me, hey, tell me what your needs are, like right, these things. And for a child, that dependency, that I'm just pouring, I'm just giving. But again, what I like about it, I don't like it in the moment, but what is something that it reveals again is in my selfishness, in my like that exposure of that is coming up of I don't want to do like I
Yeah.
just want to be alone. I just want like these things, this natural tendency in our humanity. What do I do with that? Right?
Mm,
Like it shocks me. I'm a man of faith. Not all fathers are. Listen, we all need present fathers, 1000%. I'm just a man of faith. And because of just my relationship with God, I just sit back and I think to myself, man, I don't know where people go with that. For
Mm,
me, like there's a place, there's a person I'm able to like really sit with when it comes to I can't do this in my own. And look at like there's a spot that I can go to of like how selfish I am. And God, Holy Spirit, you've gifted me, you've wired me, and I can lean on willpower, but then I think there's something more. I want more, right? And
yeah.
so I can go to God with that part of me that I know that I need to repent of, that's being exposed, that's I don't want to do this, or I do not want to get up. When
Mm.
they get up, Sean, when they get up on their own time and it's an hour before they're supposed to, that's where I'm at right now, man. I'm like, my goodness, I do not. And so, yeah, man.
No, I love that, bro. That that's true, man. So, how has being a father? Then, well, you are, yeah, you pretty much kind of tapped into it, but how has a father? How has it being a father impacted your emotional growth, bro? Um,
Mm,
do you find yourself, maybe uh, more, I don't know, like what emotional responses that maybe now that you have a child, right? Like what does that look like, bro? What does that look like for you in that
mm.
emotional growth aspect?
Yeah, great question. Great question. There's some things that I'm seeing, man, that I think um different moment. And again, he's 18 months, right? And
Yeah,
as a parent, you start to see things, and you start to there's certain aspects of his journey where you can tell he's just a little more whiny than normal. It's just like every little thing, right? Of course, he's 18 months, but you see this trajectory where it's just like, oh, okay, he's got to a point, where he's just like rocking and rolling. He gets up and he's running around now. He's walking and he's moving. I've seen him fall, bump his head, keep going, keep like. There's that tough side that I'm seeing, right?
yeah,
Like just these things. I'm like, man, okay. And I'm watching and I'm looking at him, and you can have this rhythm where he's just being boyish and I'm throwing him around, all the different stuff. And then there's the mornings
mm,
where it's just clingy. There's this more tears, more want, more like baby. And there's this part of me that being a child born in the 90s, early 90s to parents, I'm sure
yeah,
as much as I love them, they're my heroes, probably wasn't doing a whole lot of emotional work.
yeah, yeah,
um, where I'm like, I could see this part of me of, man, chill out and stop crying. Even
yeah,
just that sort of tone, that sort of posture, that sort of suck it up, that sort of these
yeah,
things. And there's a part of me, just because of my own shape and informant, that kind of comes up of like, I know when like where you've been before, just being a parent where the cry, and it's like nothing is wrong with you. Like
yeah,
there's nothing. You're fed, you're safe, you're fine. Like all the different things. What are you tripping? Like chill out, right? Like there's this, bravado, they like sort of, posture that you would have towards it. And yet I'm convicted and nudged internally that there's these moments Holy Spirit I think just kind of reveals to me of like there's a balance and there's a holistic side to our emotions where it's not just rough and tough,
yeah,
right? So there's these parts of me that, and now to be that place for him to come to, or
mm,
to be able to feel like he can come to, that I can come to with my tears, I can come to with my dependency, my whiny, my morning where I'm just clingy. I don't know if he had a bad dream or whatever it might be, like he can come. And so for me, I have to power down. I have to
mm,
emotionally go in like, hey, I'm making space for this side of you too, son. Like I want
yeah,
that too. And so, but there's something in me though, there's like I I default to that other side, but then I'm like, pull it in, or whatever. I kind of talk myself through a little bit of like, man, you know what, I want to be that, I want to be that safe place, I want to be that, what, yeah, you having a little bit more of a clingy morning. And so getting on this level, kneeling down, just kind of
yeah,
opening my arms and just like, go ahead and cry, so like just let it,
mm,
I'm here, it's all good, it's
yeah,
okay. Have them just sit on my lap. You put him down, he cries more. It's like, okay, so you don't want to be put down to this morning. Okay. That slows my morning down, but son, here, let me make
Mm,
space for all of your emotions, not
mm,
just look at my tough son falling,
yeah,
getting back up. So there's something
yeah,
in me though that's just like, oh, again, there's a softness, there's a tenderness, there's a gentleness that I think we need more of in our
mm,
world. I think we need more
yeah,
of in the conversation in the men space.
yeah,
Um, that of course that we've made strides, but it's a topic now. But I think that we need more of. We need more tools. We need more understanding of what that looks like.
yeah.
But yeah, so there's that part where I'm like, wow, okay. And again, this is just how I'm wired, man. Just kind of reflecting and making that space, again, so relatable to my relationship with God, where it's like, and yet he's gentle and he's
Mm,
tender and he's loving,
yeah,
and I can come to him with strength and might, and I can come to him in weakness and just lowly, just tears, whatever it might be, right?
yeah.
And and so yeah, there's again that holistic side of emotions that how do we make space for that for our children?
I love it, bro. I love it. So I have two more questions for you. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the first, or yeah, the second to last one is because like you said, certain things you realize, and the good thing is you've been able to lean on your relationship with God to be able to counter some of those things that
Mm,
those not positive traits, right? So I
yeah,
want to ask you, what advice would you give to other new fathers, right, like yourself,
totally.
who are just starting to confront their own flaws in the
Yep.
context of raising their child, right? So, um, yeah, what advice would you share with them with that?
Yeah. I'll first say there's a humility that this requires. And the good thing about it, for those new fathers, I would say, for those of you who do have a relationship with God, um, you don't have to find that humility in yourself.
Mm,
There's a humbleness that we pull on, that Holy Spirit gives us. That there's a fruit of self control and of patience and of kind. Like there's a lowliness that we have that we can pull on, and I think there's a humility. So starting first and foremost, I would say it starts with the humility, because humility is, I think, a good vehicle to make sure you're aware, that brings you about an awareness of who you are.
yeah,
Um, there's a open-handedness that you're willing to see those sides of you. You're willing to be exposed. You're willing um, to be open to saying, okay, the parts of you that don't have it together, right? So humility and self-awareness around where you are, I think is just is a it's important. It's so important. And one of the things that I'll say, just on a practical level of things, man, is um, I think more than ever, there's a emotional intelligence, there's a self-awareness that is needed
yeah,
like never before, to engage in some of those things of, hey, new father, you're starting here, this and that. I'm pulling on tools that I've come across just even in workspace.
mm,
When you're starting to do the work, I think even in corporate world, church world, different things that's taking place, there's there's certain um, there's certain tools, there's certain activities, there's certain things that people are starting to come become aware of, to know about, right? So the different personality stuff that's out there, the different deep work internally, the different there's a book that's Five Voices that, excuse me, that has been super helpful for me, that I love. Um, how do you go beyond just um, I'm extroverted, I'm introverted,
mm,
right? Like what else? What other language do you have when it comes to who you are, internally learning yourself? And so again, I think there's a self awareness when it comes to, where am I missing it, where am I not? That's fine, but also I think it's just helpful, man. It's just all the different books, I mean, not all the different books, but just, yeah, the different personality things that's out there. I know I don't want to get crucified. Listen, I know the Enneagram is complicated right now, and people are doing some digging around it. But some things around whatever that looks like for you, doing some research around these things that show you who you are,
Mm,
that are able to put language to um, the what makes you tick, what triggers, what are the things that are there that that you can help with, right? That you can navigate this world. And so I think, man, for me, I've been able to pull on some of those things. I've been able to have some of that. Um, and so that's one thing. I think
mm,
for two, there's community. I think it's going to be big. If you're
yeah.
able to get around some other fathers, man, there's some other ones that are, in the same stage of life as you and that's further down the road than you. Being able to lean on that, being able to back some different things around, being able to consistently be in those things. I mean, Sean, you're doing some great work and putting some roots down here, even in San Antonio, but even virtually when it comes to fathers. There needs to be conversations like this. There needs to be. We don't know it all. We don't have it all together. We don't have it when it comes to just trying to do life in isolation by ourselves. And so, I think they're just getting around some brothers, having a brotherhood around, all right, fathering, and whether you can, ask questions like this, whether you can say, what did you do with this? I'm a brand new father, right? So there's things I'm over, I'm overly, anxious about that. Other fathers are like, yeah, man, you good. Like, he had to go to the doctor the other day and he was limping, and I'm like, oh my goodness, and X-rays, we need to do this, and other fathers is like, yeah, man, he good, bro. Just that Tylenol gonna work
Oh,
miracles.
yeah.
And so you need that comfort. You need that, the relatability piece to it. And so I say, so first, those tools when it comes to being self-aware, whatever those tools look like for you, do your research, because the more you know you, the more I think you're aware of the traits, your triggers, the things that cause you to tick, right? Um, and then also community and those different spaces. Don't try to do this thing by yourself, man. So that's
I like
big.
I like that, bro. So, as we close out, I had one more I wanted to ask you is just as you look ahead, your son's obviously only 18 months right now, but what's one thing, if you could pick one thing that you hope your child will say about your son, I should say, will say about you when he's old enough to reflect on his relationship with you?
Ooh,
Hey,
that's
man, I came with
good.
some for you, man.
Came with some heat. Came with some heat. Oh, heat, man. Um, what will he say? Say it again, so I can process a little bit quicker.
No, it's all right,
What will he
brother.
say
Nah,
when? Say it again.
looking ahead, what's one
Yep.
thing, one thing that you hope that your son will say about you when
Mm.
he's old enough to reflect on his relationship with you? And I know it's difficult because I said one thing, but it's okay, man. You
Hmm.
change it
Yeah,
later. We'll come back on the
yeah.
pod and change it later.
I know, I know, I know. Oh man. Um, at this stage of life right now, I mean, of course I'm trying to look for the perfect answer, but I'm gonna just tell you whatever, like the thing
Yeah,
that's coming to mind right now, right?
yeah.
I
You
think
can come back when he's 18 years old, brother.
right,
You
all
come
right.
back.
Yeah, I give you more. I give you more. I give you more. This one that's coming to mind just in this moment for me, man, is I was able to I was able to come to my dad with all of me.
Mm,
Like all of me. I think there's something, and I think it's deeply rooted in my own story, and that's a whole nother pot for another day. But I think um, from my experience and from my own story, there's something so powerful. father cultivating that space of um, for a child to come to in any season of life, in
Mm,
any moment like that, that that level of trust, that level of I was able to, even in the midst of my shame, to my
mm,
father. I was able to, even in the midst of my bad choices, go to my father. I was able to, even in the midst of um, wrestling with this or that, whatever, when life was just throwing whatever, right? There was, my dad was a place that I could exhale,
mm,
that I could feel safety, that I could bring all of me,
mm,
the parts of me that I question, the parts of me that I don't know about, the parts of me that, like, to even process with my father out loud, to go unfiltered, to go to him without reserve, without hesitation, that level of him being able to embrace all of me. My
mm.
dad did that. My dad did that.
That's dope. I like that, man.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's dope. I like that. I like that, man. And so, well, one, of course, man, I gotta give you your flowers, man. I definitely appreciate you, bro. Just from afar, obviously, been seeing you and your beautiful family just continue to grow. What you're doing in ministry, what you're doing with your family, bro, and you keep setting the standard, bro. And I don't take for granted because I know how busy you are, bro. So I definitely appreciate you just taking the time out, man. And I know God's gonna do amazing things for you and continue to do it, man. It's just
Mm,
from afar, just seeing so much, happen and take place, man. It's been amazing. So I just wanted to tell you, bro, that I'm always rooting for you. You know what I mean? And
uh,
I'm just thankful for you, man. I'm thankful for us being able to connect once again, man. So I had to give you your flowers, bro, before we close out. So I appreciate you, bro. Real talk.
wow. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Um,
Man, I
no,
appreciate you.
course, man. So, like always, y'all, make sure y'all like, make sure y'all share, make sure y'all tell a friend. And like always, remember, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. I'll see you on the next one.